Youngpreneurs Podcast, episode number 136 with your host, Victor Penny. What's up, world? Another day, another podcast, and today I'm super stoked to have one of my good friends on from the Gold Coast, Rossco Paddison, and he has done a hell of a lot in the entrepreneurial world, all by the ripe age of 32, and he started from his early teens, if even that. And he's gone on to create multiple businesses that have generated 6 and 7 figures, and now he is helping others do it in a really creative way. So if you've ever been interested in crowdfunding, then this is the show for you, because he's absolute master in it and he's going to absolutely change the game. So if you enjoy this episode, make sure you jump over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you're looking for the show notes or other cool resources like how to start a business for $0, it's a 4-video series that I've got for you for free at passiveincomeyoung.com, plus all our past episodes, which have got a ton of value in them. But in the meantime, guys, grab a pen and paper, because there were some definite insights, into Rossco's day and his mindset around, scaling and success that definitely resonated with me and has changed how I am going to be moving forward in my businesses. So sit back, relax, and keep living life on your own terms.
You're listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast, the #1 resource online for under 35-year-olds. Where we chat twice a week to the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the world. We have it all. If you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or actionable tips to help you transition from that job into a business, or if you're ready to take that business to a whole new level, then this is the place to be. Get ready to live life on your own terms.
Youngpreneurs, what is up? Welcome to another episode of the Youngpreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Victor Penny. Super stoked that you chose to spend some time with us today. As we know, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend your time with, and you will not be disappointed today, as I've got a good friend of mine, Rossco Paddison, who is a serial entrepreneur who wears a few different hats that we're going to delve into, and one focusing on helping CEOs be CEOs, and the other is helping entrepreneurs just like yourself crowdfund like we should be. So we're going to delve into a lot of that, because both of those are far from my area of expertise. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot myself. Welcome to the show, Rossco.
It's super awesome to be here, and I'm excited to share with you guys today.
So, serial entrepreneur, it's a term. I know you've had a lot of different businesses, a lot of fingers in different pies. If we were to take it back to where it all began, when you were a high school student, what did it all look like? Was entrepreneurship always on the cards? Was that the influence you'd always had from people around you, or was it was there some magical turning point that many people talk about?
I think I was actually still in primary school. I think it was like grade 5 or 6. I was like 12 or 13, and I was selling mangoes on the side of the road. And it was the ultimate business, because I picked the mangoes up off the ground for free and then flicked them. But I've been in business for 19 years. I'm 32 years of age, and I've been in business for 19 years. Like, I haven't stopped. So had tons of screw ups and plenty of failures, but also I've had some really good weekends of selling and marketing. The best sales weekend I ever had, selling a bunch of properties from stage. We were able to move nearly $30 million worth of stock. So I've had some highs and some lows, and I love sales and marketing and everything. Business is pretty much what I eat and drink.
Cool. So we want to fit as much into here as possible. And as I said, there's two hats I don't really know a lot about. So you one of the hats, you work with CEOs of companies that you own.
Yep.
Do you want to delve into a bit of that?
So I'm invested in them along with the CEOs of those companies. So, we've got a few at the moment. We're just onboarding a new CEO into a co-working space. We've got a marketing company. We've got a small bookkeeping firm, and then we've got the crowdfunding business, which I'm playing CEO in that seat, as well as the CEO of CEO's seat. So basically, growing a bunch of businesses at once, and this actually happened to me as a result of being a coach for 10 years and really being frustrated by having coaching clients who weren't creating the results, and I knew I could create them if I just employed some people. So I employed them and started coaching the people that I'd get a direct response from. It's been awesome. It's been great.
And so there's going to be a lot of future or current CEOs out there listening at the moment. Obviously, it's different for each industry, but if you were sitting out there and you were saying to people, all right, like, here are the fundamental mistakes that either a lot of people go into starting or growing their own businesses that they're either naive to or you consistently see them doing wrong. Are there any common traits across all the different companies?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake by far is people not having a product that is just the market's hot and heavy for. I think, like if we look at the marketplace at the time of recording this, there's like 9 bazillion coaches and consultants right now, all offering a whole bunch of things that they thought was a good idea rather than actually checking if anyone wanted to buy that thing. And I think that's the most important thing. And the thing that I see go wrong the most is the market hungry for what you're selling? Do they care about that? Would they go look for that if you weren't telling them about it?
Yeah. It's really interesting you say that, because there was Roger Hamilton put a post out yesterday about, I can't remember the name of the company. I'll just have a look for it, but it was a dude who was in charge of Uber Asia, and changed it to, it's called Mubike.
Yeah, right.
And it's basically the Uber of bikes. And you know how you always hear the Uber of whatever? It's literally, they've created technology that goes in push bikes around China that you can unlock them with your phone. And it costs you 15 cents an hour or something. And then it's got tracking software so they can keep track of all these bikes. And it's, the aim is to allow more people to use push bikes in China and clean up the pollution. And it's just been valued. It's just got enough funding, and it's turning over X amount of bikes that it's over $1 billion company just this week. So but he saw that hole in the market that people were loving the Ubers and the Lyfts and the spin-offs of that. And I mean, you still got to, I guess people aren't, for those unicorns, people aren't necessarily yelling out for it, but it makes pretty logical sense. It's not, no one else is doing that, but he had the tenacity to change it. But as you say, 5 million consultants, or 5,000 people go to Tony Robbins every year, and there's a group of life coaches that come out at the end of it, and you go, and okay, like I'm not bagging life coaches by any stretch, but you wonder how many of them have all these things in order. They've got a skill set to be able to do it, but then they don't know how to market themselves, or they don't know how to do this or do that. And
I think you got to start where you're at. Look, I mean, I came out really aggressively when I first hit the scene as a business coach, like 10 odd years ago. I hit the scene hard, and I made a bunch of these mistakes we're talking about personally, where I, spruiked myself kind of hardcore, and, I had to fall flat on my face a couple of times and get embarrassed to sort of, make some real world mistakes and learn what did and didn't work. But I think the thing that I learned majorly from that point in time that's super relevant to those people that we're not berating at all, we're actually really encouraging them to step up, is to share where you're at. Don't pretend you're somewhere you're not. And you can be the first time you've ever life coached someone in your whole entire life, and that can still be a good offer in the right marketplace at the right time with the right circumstances. What's not a good offer is to say, you're the world's best life coach and you've done less than 10,000 sessions. You can't call yourself that. And even still, by what measure? So I think the biggest lesson I learned from those times of overstepping the mark is you figure out the mark by stepping over it slightly. So don't be totally unafraid. Take some action, and if you get pulled up, listen to some of the feedback. But the second thing is just share where you're at. Hey, this is the first time I'm going to life coach someone. Someone want to do the session for free. Let me, let's do it. Let's help you create some results. I'm looking to create a case study, and then use that case study to go sell someone for cheap, and then slowly, progressively grow it.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. But with the guys that the CEOs or guys and girls that you coach as the CEOs, is there a mindset shift for a lot of them to go into creating a business to scale rather than creating a job for themselves, or creating a bit, like, are you always looking to create a business to scale?
I think there's totally looking to create businesses to scale, but I think there's this there was this great thing I got taught about hiring and onboarding people, which is it's not a sales job. You don't actually want to sell anyone on the role. You actually want to try and scare a whole group of people off, and if there's anyone still standing, then you have someone who might be up for the challenge. And so in saying that, the mindset shift for people who are looking to go from job into a business, you're actually, you don't get more freedom, you get more responsibility when you start your own business. So all of these CEOs that I work with, I have ownership, they have ownership, and they earn their ownership as they go. And what happens in that dynamic is they are at more risk than they've ever been at before in their life. They're more vulnerable to their fuck-ups. Sorry, excuse me. Their stuff-ups. Right. Their stuff-ups equaling, their own, challenging circumstances. And they're actually putting it on the line. And what it doesn't do is it doesn't give them freedom for a minimum 3 to 5 years. It's hitting themselves if they think that going from a job to having a business is going to give you freedom in anything less than 3 to 5 years. It's like it's actually a fantasy.
Yeah, I've ridden that fantasy.
Yeah, I've lived that fantasy a number of times myself. Don't get me wrong. I say it from experience, not from some sort of teacher position. But the thing that the mindset that people really take on when they take the bull by the horns and make something actually grow is that they take on and they get excited about the responsibility. And by that, I mean is they go out and they hire teams they can't even afford yet, and they go and sell their way through the problem so they can pay their wages. They're aggressive in, they've got a healthy appetite for risk with a healthy appetite for intelligently mitigating the risk also. But they've got a healthy appetite for risk, and they've got a healthy appetite for problem solving on a grander scale. Like they're trying to figure out how next week's problems are going to be much bigger than this week's problems, because the company's growing so fast and it's having growing problems that they're not used to.
And I think it's an important thing to understand as well, is that living in the dream world that we were talking about before, when you think, if I just get this, and this going, then life will be sweet next week. Whereas, in that situation and in that mindset, which is it's something that I'm still coming to terms with and doing things as I grow, but it's basically that, all right, once I've got this, then I can scale up to another level and find some new headaches, and these ones will potentially no longer be headaches, or I'll worry less about them, or I'll have the systems in place. But
or the headache will be so much different that it's now a bigger headache than it's ever been before. But the people who are successful in this, they're hungry for that. They're hungry for the bigger, better problems to solve. They're just so hungry for it. They've got this insatiable thirst and this ambition that you can't dampen. Like, for example, get this, right? I took a week at Christmas, and I kind of tried to properly switch off, and I had this problem last year, 2015. I had this problem. I went away for a month, and I absolutely hated it. I stopped working on all the businesses and took a month off. And some people listening to this are probably going, I'd love to have a month off, or they're thinking, I kind of get where this is going. But I took a month off, and I absolutely hated it. I stopped doing what I loved every single day for every minute of the day to try and rest. And what happened to me, and the same thing happened even though it was only a handful of days of Christmas just gone, is I get inspired when I stop. The momentum inside of me doesn't stop. And most entrepreneurs are like this. The second they stop for 5 minutes, they get 5 more ideas. That's why you never see them sitting still. And so I think sitting still is dangerous. It's as an entrepreneur, because you don't need more ideas unless they're ideas to solve the bigger problems that you've already got.
I agree. I mean, I'm probably not to the same extent of not liking a holiday, but I hate walking, driving, being in public transport, going anywhere, if I'm not listening to a book, if I'm not listening to a podcast, if I'm not educating myself, I just get so bored out of my mind if I can't do those things, because I get inspiration and ideas, and I'll go for a walk for an hour and I'll come back and I'll be like, oh yeah, here's a solution, or here's this, and I can start working on that, and there's all these different things. But yeah, I agree. Like I was talking to one of the past guests on here, James Rose, and he was talking about vacations, and he said his theory on it was he loved vacations when he was in a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Then when he went out to get his own stuff, he realized it was just getting away from work that he loved.
Yeah.
Like he loves going to, say, Japan and going snowboarding, but prior to that, he'd love going anywhere and not working. And now he's like, well, no, I'd rather just be where I am and not be on a plane for 15 hours, where I can carry on doing what I already enjoy and love and challenges me and gives me excitement and, the like.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into the other hat that you wear. What does that look like? Gather Change. What is Gather Change? What are you solving, and how are you helping people?
So really, this is where I kind of work with the CEOs of tomorrow anyway. So people who are looking to start up businesses and they've got ideas and they want to turn them into businesses. It's a place where I get to use my skill set that's really strong. I've, my skill set in companies, just so I'm really honest, I've got these goals of and billion-dollar aspirations. However, my present skill set, I'm really good at getting businesses to 6 and 7 figures really fast. I'm really good at marketing campaigns for 8 and 9 figure organizations. And I've been brought in for sales and marketing on 8 and 9 figure organizations a number of times. But my skill set, where it lies, is that fast start, get traction real quick. And Gather Change for me is now like this vehicle where I get to play with those businesses all the time. People who have maybe been teetering around the edges of an idea for a long time and just kind of aren't sure whether it's going to fly or not. And crowdfunding is like literally the best way to launch a business in terms of you're testing a market, you're proving the concept, you're getting funds, you're building a list, you're generating a database of future customers. It's just like the perfect storm of business startup in my view. So I absolutely love it, with obviously everything that I've already shared, and the insight on me here is that I just love the idea of how do I, what tools can I use in my tool belt that will enable me to constantly write my own check.
Yeah. And
crowdfunding is one of those tools where, once you learn the skill of crowdfunding, you can write your own check over and over and over again. Do you know the watch Pebble, Victor? Like that watch that happened right before the iWatch?
Yep.
So that recently just sold out. I can't remember the exact figures, but it was hundreds of millions of dollars that it just sold out to like Casio watches. And they did a crowdfund where they tried to raise $100,000 to build this like digital watch, and they raised like $10-15 million. But what most people don't know is that they raised $10 or $15 million like 6 times. So they used crowdfunding again and again and again, and then just sold the company for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Jesus. It's so cool.
That's all they used was crowdfunding. Like they had a website and stuff, but that was their sales method. That was what they used. It was a quick exit, like they had the challenges along the way, as every company does. But, it's actually a complete vehicle for communicating with the marketplace at large and saying, hey, are you hungry for what I've got?
Mm. And so who does it benefit these days? Like who's the ideal person out there who's listening to this who isn't thinking about crowdfunding at the moment that maybe should be, or what kind of person or business does it suit?
So it's actually funny. It's like so I don't want to give the broad sweeping answer of it suits everyone, because that's probably not true. But who it suits really well is either startup, got no idea where they're heading or what they're doing, and really they need to crystallize it and get it down into a clear singular message. But the other place that it works extremely well, and it's a place that most people might not think, is in the established business market, where there's an established business that's got medium to high price dollar sale items already, but they don't have something that's at the entry level. So say, for example, I'm just going to pluck an industry out of thin air, like an accountant, for example.
Yep.
They may have, the average client might be worth between $3,000 and $5,000 a year for them, assuming they serve sort of small micro businesses. And they have this $3,000 to $5,000 sale that they're trying to make. But what they don't have is they don't have a $50 to $150 product that they usually use to build the database and grow the list of their future customers. So what I suggest is to establish businesses like an accountancy practice in that example, or all sorts of businesses, don't get me wrong, whether it's service-based, product-based, whatever it might be, is we create what's called a baby step sale, or a product that's a small purchase that can help us acquire a list that pays us money to be on the list of future customers for the other products and services you offer with inside the business. So essentially a lead funnel where you're getting paid to receive the leads versus paying for them.
It's brilliant. And so what I know you pitched last year at Startup Con?
Yeah. Jumped in front of Steve Baxter, one of the sharks, was on the little panel. I think I got like second or third in my round, and there was a number of rounds, so I didn't win the competition by any means, but I got some great feedback, and I got some feedback from some of the investors who did the Series D round of funding on Airbnb and Uber. They sat down with me, dude. They were so giving, like Steve and these numerous mentors at the event sat down with me and would spend between 15 and 30 minutes just giving their time to help me craft the future for what's going to happen for Gather Change. And I was just so humbled by that those mentors just came forward and gave freely of their time, just because they just believed in this whole tech sector, especially in Australia. It's a space that needs as much support as it can get, because it is really, the future industry. And so I got some great feedback there. The feedback was pretty simple. It was just, I have to, right now, gatherchange.com is essentially like any other crowdfunding platform. And we've got some stuff in the works, but basically the advice was to get something really proprietary that we can lock down and get some IP around that's really strong, so that we can scale it and, not essentially make it so that we don't have competition. And so that's going to happen in the area of, essentially where that's going to happen is in the area of crowdsourcing. So when I first did my first crowdfunding campaign for one of the businesses that I've got, the co-working space, we were able to raise like 40 grand in cash. And then we also raised an extra like 60 to 70 grand's worth of stuff in kind. So by that, I mean, I got given physical air conditioners. I had labor given to me by professional tradespeople. I had all these people give me this stuff in kind that I didn't have to pay money for. And so essentially the platform I'm building will be able to take in cash and in kind is the play. And we're just figuring out how to lock that down proprietary wise.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. You're a startup and you need development work, or you need, I'm thinking from a tech side of things, a web developer goes, hey, that's an awesome idea. I'd love to be a part of that. I'd love to help them out, or stuff like that, which is, that's an awesome, unique spin on it. Because that was going to be the next question. How do you differentiate, and how do you try and compete with the big players? But I mean, if you're
That's where I'm going to head heavily. There's a few things I won't go into detail on just yet, because you've got to get the RP on it. But there's a couple of specific ideas that I got at StartCon that we're implementing on. It's just extremely complex algorithm that I have no idea how to do. So I'm starting to talk to people who do. But we'll essentially set it up so that we've got a high value tool around that space. But the thing that I found really interesting is that this is just where the world is going. Like if you look at like a university student who might be listening, for example, when they come out of uni, the first thing they need is experience. So if they could go to a platform like this and say, hey, I'll give, 30 hours of my time to this, high-end not-for-profit or business or whatever it is, they're gonna get some cred under their belt for what they're doing in the world, as well as, being able to give back to something that's pretty cool. So I think there's a lot of ways in which it'll work. And you and I both know this, Victor, and any real business owner listening to this knows this as well, is that out of 100% of your business growth, right? Out of 100% of your business growth, the biggest turning points in your growth have not necessarily been when you've got more money. It's when you change something it's when you made a change, or it's when you got help from someone else, or it's when you like got given opportunities, which are essentially another type of in-kind value. So when we look at the value or the scaling of a business, we need to take into account more than just the money and the profit margin. Because the opportunities that are missed and left on the table, and that have us ignore our own ability to write our own blank check every day, are just completely and utterly missed if you're looking for focusing purely on the bottom line.
Yeah, I can't agree more with that. I was, I don't know, about, it would have just been about 12 months ago. From a financial standpoint, I'd thrown a lot of eggs into the marketing basket, and not a lot came up for a variety of reasons, which was all good. And I said, all right, I've got to do a couple of days a week physio just to keep afloat. And in the end, I ended up finding this job that was part of I did one of the things that I really loved actually doing as a physio. We do pre-employment assessments for companies, but I'd always thought there was a bugbear and there needed to be something better done. And this company happened to be doing whatever that was. And it was just a brilliant transition, that me having chased entrepreneurial things and this guy having an amazing product, we've now kind of butted heads in an awesome way. And about 6 months into this maternity leave contract that I was doing, said to him, I want to be a part of this, because what we do is we do it via Skype. We can do it anywhere in the world. I could do it. I've done one to a person in Madagascar who was going for a job in Australia, which was pretty awesome. And then companies, but long story short, I said I want to be a part of this, and he needed a bit more structure about how he was growing. We had amazingly big clients, but he'd put 200K into back-end software, and it was kind of two worlds collided, and we've got a JV set up. And he literally said that the other day. He's like, I think with meeting you and you coming on board, and plus one other guy that he met, he said it wasn't a large increase in revenue or this new software or anything. He said the biggest change to the business was the people that I've met and the differences that I've made. And it's it's a pretty exciting business because it's scalable worldwide, but at the same point it just hammers home that thing that it wasn't the extra $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year client that he got on board. It was the ability to be able to get $50,000 a year clients, because he's got people who can help him get there faster.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I mean, it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. Like, it's not about how much money you've got. I learned this like from the youngest of age I can remember. My old man's a builder and a developer, property developer. And I'd go onto the job site. I'd never quite get why my dad was still on the tools, because my dad had achieved a level of success where he could probably have a site manager and stuff like that. Yep. My dad would always be on the tools. He'd be, running around helping everyone. And I didn't quite get it. But one thing that I loved, that I learned, that was so fundamental to my experience of life, was he was renowned for using anything as a hammer. Like, if he had to hammer in a nail to a frame or a truss or something in a building, and the hammer was on the other side of the building site, he was just so efficient that he would grab, if there was a brick on the ground beside, he'd grab it, get the nail in, and move. And so what I learned in that moment as a young kid is that you got to be willing to get your hands dirty. You got to be like, that's fundamental to success. And the second part is that stop trying to look for the desired tool to get the job done, and use what you've got. Like, stop trying to look for the next lead funnel, for the next social media strategy, for the next 20 grand to throw at Facebook ads, or the next this or the next that. That is bullshit. Use what you've got right now.
Yep.
Like, use it, because it works. You just haven't figured out how to use what you've got yet.
Yeah. And I mean, I know I've learned that, how you can spend a few grand on Facebook ads that doesn't do anything, or you can create a JV with somebody and run a webinar to them, for a product that you've got for free, split 50% of the profits. It costs you nothing, and I wouldn't say you're away laughing, but it's the resourcefulness of it, and then you go,
You made a mark.
This is repeatable, and this is scalable, and if you want to keep chucking money into the marketing side of things, you've got it there. You're not where I was a year ago. I wasn't.
So this thing I just discovered recently, and I've started telling this to people who crowdfund or who are growing businesses, is it's a Warren Buffett quote, and he says he sets his goals so low he can step over them. He sets the bar real low so he can step over it. And so I kind of had been around goal setting my whole life, where I set outlandish goals, and then I set these sort of what I could do based on results I'd achieved before kind of goals. Yeah. And recently, for the last 9 months, so the last 3 quarters, I was reviewing my quarterly plan for all my businesses in the last month or so and resetting them. We started setting the bar below what we knew we could achieve, and we've started hitting the ball out of the park. Mm-hmm. And what happens is when you set what you need to do to make an entrepreneur accelerate is to reduce pressure. Like, reduce the pressure on the person. They don't need more pressure. They need less, and they need to be able to constantly set themselves up to win. So set the bar so goddamn low that you're going to be a champion at the end of your crowdfunding campaign or your next quarter in business or whatever it might be. But set the bar, to launch something, and not to have a bajillion sales, maybe to have 5 of your first thing. Set it low and then hustle like you want to make 1 million sales anyway. And I don't mean hustle like burn yourself out, but I mean it in like do logically the most leveraged things with the resources you got.
If people are out there and they're going, okay, like you're doing all these things, like this is freaking amazing. How do you get all the time? What does a day look like to you? Is there such a thing as a normal day, or is there routines around it which you structure for success? Like, what does a day look like for you?
It's probably easier for me to tell you a week, just because days are a little so I'll just quickly run through the week. So Mondays is internal meetings day. I have level 10 meetings and I have quarterly meetings on Monday, but basically Mondays are designated to the business of the businesses. That's when you check all the numbers, do all the internals. Tuesday is usually whatever I need to get done for the week. It's just like the things I need to produce for the week. Wednesday and Thursday, I'm on the phone. I'm having, no matter which point you'll be at a business, you'll be on the phone doing interviews, doing big strategic deals. You'll always be selling, whether it's small or large deals, you will always be selling. So get fundamentally used to that. And Wednesdays and Thursdays, I have on average a conversation every 15 to 20 minutes for about 8 to 10 hours a day, which is huge. Most people aren't used to that, but I do it 2 days a week. And that includes my coaching sessions with a couple of coaching clients I've still got, which are sort of legacy stuff. And then Fridays is big picture for me. So I usually don't book a lot of appointments on Fridays. I might go and have like a lunch or something on a Friday with a good solid strategic partner or something. But I'll usually use Fridays for planning for the next week because, as you probably just noticed, my weeks are pretty huge. But I also knock off, sort of every day except Wednesday, Thursday. I knock off at about 3 or 4 and I start at about 9. So I don't work ridiculous hours, but I chunk together exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's super cool too. I think it shows to people that if you've set the time aside, and it's something that I've been doing a bit more with, journaling and diary at the start of the day or at the end of the night, and I'll definitely take some of those pointers on board. But if you set up strong for a following week, you can smash out a lot more than if you're floating around going, oh, what am I going to do today? I'll do a bit of this, I'll do a bit of that. Oh yeah, I'll flutter here and I'll flutter there. And I think it's obviously working for you, but it seems you can see why it's working. So it's pretty cool.
I tell you when it doesn't work for me, and I've been a fool to my own process a bunch of times, and everyone has this problem. But whenever I've focused on trying to improve my businesses versus trying to serve more people, that always usually causes drama. The way you improve your business is not by focusing on improving it; it's by focusing on helping others.
It's kind of it's the oxymoron of
Yeah.
business, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, people think I need to get more people in, or
I need to get this lead funnel right, or I need to just finish this web page or this thing or this, get some pretty photos or get a business card or whatever the silly excuses are they have. When actually you just need to go out and say, hey, what's your challenge? Can I help you?
I think you've spent your Saturdays last year just watching my Monday to Fridays. But last couple of questions just to wrap up. Resources, books, videos. What to anyone out there? What's the coolest thing? That's got you excited recently that you've gone, oh, that was awesome.
The book that I would basically every CEO that runs a business that I've got, or anyone that asks me for a business book, I highly recommend Gino Wickman's Traction, which also has a fable version of the same book, so like a story version of it, which is called Get a Grip. It's the process of quarterly meetings, and it's a management system for businesses. I was great at entrepreneurial stuff, and Traction's made a huge impact in my business, so I highly recommend that. I think Ryan Dice and a couple other people sort of discovered it the last couple of years too. And the other thing that I would highly recommend, just for the human part of you as an entrepreneur, is the Values Factor DeMartini.
Yeah.
Just get yourself aligned with who you are, and don't try and fight the parts of you that you're not. And get on with creating what you actually want from your strengths, not from pretend ones.
Yeah, DeMartini is awesome. Yeah, that book opened my eyes up to a lot of stuff. It's just pretty cool. Finally, we'll link all of that in the show notes at passiveincomeyoung.com. But finally, if people want to find out more about Gather Change or about you, where can they, or just about crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, where can they go and what can they do?
So 2 places, literally just hook up with me on Facebook. My name is Rossco Paddison, Rossco Paddison. Send me a friend request, talk to me. I'm a human being. Send me a message and I'll actually respond. Or you can just go to facebook.com/Rossco Paddison for that. Or if you're interested in crowdfunding, I recommend doing the challenge we have that we run on that constantly. So that can be found at gatherchange.com/challenge, and that's gatherchange.com/challenge. You know how to spell that. And I highly recommend doing that just one time. Doesn't matter where you're at in business, like I said before, even if you've got an established business or you just got a startup idea. I think that it's the perfect process to refine your marketing message, increase the value of the products you offer to the market, and really build a database fast where you get paid for it. I think it's honestly, I know I'm probably meant to be the person in the world who's super excited about it, but I am, because it has so many of the business fundamentals in place that people don't get right. And if you can't raise money in a crowdfunding campaign successfully, my thought is that you probably shouldn't be in business. So it's a good little business, am I an entrepreneur test.
Yeah, cool. Well, I know I've got that email in my inbox already that I need to give some long, hard time over the coming weeks. But for everyone else, follow all those links. Rossco's an absolute genius, if you haven't already gathered, when it comes to marketing, business, growth, and everything in between. And we'll link all of that, passiveincomeyoung.com. Rossco, I want to thank you and welcome you to the Youngpreneurs family. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to following the process or the progress of Gather Change.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate it, and look forward to meeting all your listeners in the days and weeks ahead.
Thanks for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. This was proudly brought to you by the Podcast Institute, the #1 training resource to take your business from chasing leads to leads chasing you, and from an absolute amateur to a full-blown authority. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, then a podcast is the obvious answer. You can get national and global exposure in a very fast time, and it's just exactly what I've done with this podcast. So if you want to find out more, get a checklist on how you can get started for under $60, and to find out more through a small training video that I've prepared for you all, then please check out passiveincomeyoung.com/podcast training.